What's the most savage instant karma you've seen hit someone who tried to ruin a relationship? Story 1. I was the junior project manager on a tech team where my fiancée, Mara, worked 2 floors up in accounting. Enter Kayla, senior dev, charismatic in the way a small fire is charismatic. She had a thing for my boss and hated that Mara and I were the office, healthy relationship cliché. Kayla started small, harmless jokes about Mara micromanaging my lunches, then graduated to forwarding me late-night Slack messages from Mara, demanding I check in hourly. The tone was off, but Kayla swore she'd seen them in the audit logs. 2 weeks later, an anonymous complaint lands in HR alleging Mara accessed engineering financials to track my salary. Kayla reluctantly brings a screen recording to back it up. My boss tells me to prepare for the worst. I spent that night rage cleaning and packing an overnight bag, convinced we were moments from imploding. Mara, shaking, goes to HR with me. The director asks for permission to pull full security logs and device histories. Kayla's lip actually quivered. Turns out the screen recording was from a personal laptop on a guest Wi-Fi MAC address that matched Kayla's phone hotspot. And those Slack messages? She'd spun up a burner Slack app, invited herself and a spoofed Mara A with an identical avatar, then screen-capped conversations she wrote to herself. The kicker: our building recently changed badge vendors. The new system flags whose phone is tethered to what device when someone badged after hours. The night the financial portal was accessed, Kayla badged out at 1:13 a.m., right as her hotspot latched to a laptop in the accounting suite. Instant karma hit like a dropped server rack. She was fired on the spot for falsifying evidence and network tampering. As she's escorted out, she hisses at me. "You'll thank me when you see who she really is." I turn to Mara, who was quietly crying. HR interrupts. "Ms. Alvarez?" Mara looks up. "We're opening a new role to audit cross-department access. Your ticket histories show you've caught every permission creep for 2 years. Would you be interested?" We walked out together while security boxed Kayla's desk. That night, I unpacked the overnight bag and used it to hide an engagement ring in the laundry. I proposed with the stupid bag in my hand. She laughed so hard she said yes twice. Story 2. I was the best man. The groom, Theo, and I grew up like brothers. His fiancée, Lena, is one of those people whose laugh makes waiters smile. Enter Amber, Theo's cousin, who has always believed the family tree is a crown and she's the jewel. A week before the wedding, Amber accidentally tells Lena she saw Theo and me at a bar flirting with 2 women and disappearing for an hour. She says she's telling her girl to girl. I know what night she means. We'd been out because Theo's dad, who hated Lena for not being old money, threatened to pull funding for the venue. Theo and I disappeared to call the venue ourselves and put the bill on my card. At the rehearsal dinner, Amber stands to give a toast and decides the best time to sow chaos is between salad and steak. "Sometimes," she says, voice trembling theatrically, "you have to ask if the person at the altar is who they say," gasps. Lena's mom stands, Theo's hands fist. I'm about to tackle the mic when Lena raises a finger. "Before dessert," she says, a slideshow. The projector hums. Photos of their childhoods, prom, the proposal, then screenshots. Amber's face drains. The texts are from her to Theo. Weeks of, "Are you sure about Lena? You deserve someone who gets you," morphing into, "If you're having doubts, I'll keep your secret." And then, on the night of the supposed bar fiasco, "If you leave now, we can talk in my car. I won't tell." The final slide is location data, Find My Friends pings, showing Theo's dot at the venue office, my dot next to his, and Amber's dot idling for 40 minutes in the parking lot of that bar. Lena turns to Amber. "You tried to ruin my wedding because you weren't the bride." Theo's dad stands at the back, red and rigid. Lena nods at him. "Also, thanks for refusing to pay. We changed the venue yesterday." Lights flip up. Everyone looks around. We're not in the original ballroom, but in Lena's community arts center, strung with paper flowers the neighborhood kids made. It's beautiful. Amber is escorted out by her mother like a toddler leaving a museum mid-tantrum. Theo's dad tries to slink away too, but Lena's grandfather intercepts him and, in a voice that carries, says, "The family business will be fine without your wallet." They exchanged vows under construction paper peonies. The cake cutting? They used a box cutter from the prop shop. And in the photos, there's one of Amber's empty chair, ribbon curling like a question mark. It's my favorite. Story 3. I'm 16 now, but this happened when I was 12, and it's why I live with my dad. My mom, Claire, decided she hated my stepmom, Rhea, on principle. They were polite at drop-offs until my mom started filing incidents, late pickups, missed mids, unsafe environment. She wanted full custody. Dad kept saying, We'll let the judge decide. He said it like he was trying to convince himself. Courtroom day smelled like old paper and coffee. Mom had a binder the size of a dictionary, tabs in neon. She cried on command about the night I came home hungry, how Rhea screamed at me for spilling pasta. I stared at my shoes because that night was me dumping spaghetti on the cat and laughing so hard Rhea couldn't remember to be mad. Dad didn't have a binder. He had a USB stick and a folder of my report cards. His lawyer asked me if I wanted to speak. I said yes because I didn't want Rhea to think I was scared. I told the judge that Rhea packs cut fruit and lemon juice so it doesn't brown, that she learned my inhaler whistle from me, that she put sticky notes on the stairs reminding me science fair is not an excuse to forget shoes. Then Dad's lawyer played the audio. It was me and Mom in her car, unmistakable, the jangle of her keychain, Mom's voice. If you say Rhea yelled, the judge will see she's crazy, my small voice. But she didn't, Mom again, sharper. Do you want to live with me or not? The courtroom didn't make a sound. The judge took off her glasses and folded them like she'd been waiting to put something down. Mom started to talk. About context, about stress, about how I misunderstood, and her own lawyer touched her sleeve and shook his head. The order came 2 weeks later. Primary custody to Dad. Supervised visits for Mom until she completed a parenting class and counseling. The first supervised visit, she brought me a book and asked if I was happy. I said yes and watched it break her. Here's the savage part. A year later, Rhea got into a car accident and couldn't climb stairs for a month. Mom showed up at our door with groceries. She looked small and had the same neon tabs on a casserole dish. She said, I can carry things, if that's allowed. We let her in. She never asked me to lie again. Karma wasn't losing me. It was earning me back with no shortcuts. The story 4. I, 29F, was labeled a gold digger by my boyfriend's mother before I knew there was any gold to dig. Mark and I met at a hardware store arguing about the right anchor for plaster walls. His family owns a string of rental properties. I rent. You can diagram the contempt. At his grandfather's funeral, the reception turned into an open audition for sainthood. His mom, Denise, hovered by the casseroles wearing grief like a designer coat. She pulled me aside, low voice. When the will is read, be gracious. Some things are for family. I was already planning to leave. The rumors she'd been spreading. She keeps receipts like she's building a case. She's angling for a ring. Had made every dinner feel like a deposition. Still, I went to the reading because Mark asked. The lawyer's office smelled like leather and lemon oil. Denise sat front and center, pearls tight. The will was straightforward until a codicil none of us knew about. It established a small foundation to repair low-income homes, and named me as executor. Denise scoffed so loudly the lawyer paused. The explanation came in the form of a letter, handwritten and shaky, to the woman who fixed my bathroom ceiling without being asked and refused money because it's just spackle. You can be trusted with roofs. Denise went gray, then angrier. This is absurd. She manipulated an old man. The lawyer blinked. There's also a note about cash withdrawals. He slid bank statements across the table, highlighted lines like neon wounds. For 2 years, someone had siphoned funds from a property maintenance account. The account Denise managed. She launched into reasons, emergencies, miscommunications. I meant to replace it. Until the lawyer flipped to the last page, a signed confession email Denise had accidentally sent to the wrong Greg last month, admitting she'd borrowed from the account to cover cosmetic surgery and expected Dad not to notice. Wrong Greg forwarded it to the estate attorney. Karma was instant and ledgered. Denise was removed as trustee for every family account. The foundation covered the maintenance deficit before anything else. Mark didn't say a word to me on the ride home. I packed a bag. He showed up the next day with a paint-stained hoodie and a check he didn't owe me. I'm sorry, he said. I thought Mom was protecting me. I told him I didn't need protection. I needed a partner who believed me when I said I could hold a trowel and a budget. He put the hoodie on my chair like a flag and asked if the foundation needed a Saturday volunteer. We're not together. But last month we finished a ramp for Ms. Dupree across town. Denise drove by and didn't get out of the car. She rolled down the window, started to say something biting, then swallowed it when Ms. Dupree rolled down hers and said, Baby, if you got something to say, bring a hammer. Story 5. I work in brand partnerships for a fitness app. Our ex-poster child, Lila, built a following on clean girl content and the kind of breakup videos that turn crying into B-roll. When her ex, Jai, started dating a normal person, Nora, a nurse, Lila went DEFCON petty. She posted a safety PSA, alleging Nora had been messaging Jai while they were still together. She blurred names just enough for the internet to play detective and dox Nora's hospital. Phones rang off the hook. Nora's supervisor cried in the break room. Our legal team prepped statements. Lila doubled down with tearful TikToks. Then a junior accounts analyst, Manny, sends me a DM. Is this relevant? It was a spreadsheet he'd pulled while reconciling creator payouts. A string of $2,500 consulting fees from a sponsor, paid to Lila's LLC, matched dates when she claimed she was doing sponsored awareness videos, except the sponsor had never approved those posts. Manny traced a shadow email Lila used to invoice herself through a shell agency, then had the brand send funds back to her main company as reimbursement. We brought it to leadership. They were hesitant. Lila is expensive and volatility sells, until Manny found the keystone, a Slack message from Lila to our social team, instructing them to boost her PSA about Nora using emergency budget lines reserved for crisis recalls. She'd labeled the doxing content a safety issue to access funds. That gave compliance teeth. The same afternoon, Jai posted. It wasn't defensive. It was a screen recording of his iCloud archives, showing timestamps. He and Lila were already broken up when Nora texted him, "I hope you're okay." The final clip was an audio note from Lila to a friend bragging, if she wants him, she can have the comments section too. We cut ties with Lila and issued a public apology to Nora naming the cause. Misuse of emergency funds and violation of brand safety, including targeted harassment. Sponsors dropped Lila like a kettlebell mid-swing. She tried to counter with a defamation suit. Discovery opened her invoices like a tin can. Nora? She posted once. A selfie in scrubs captioned, "Back to work." The hospital instituted a no-tolerance policy for influencer-led harassment and hired Manny to review social risk on contract. The savage part? Our app's new billboard ran last week. It's Jai and Nora at a park, sweaty and happy. Slogan, "Stronger than the comments." The bench facing the billboard? That's where Lila used to film her sobriety of the soul monologues. She hasn't posted there since. Story 6. I'm the unofficial neighborhood archivist, retired teacher, front porch anthropologist, ring doorbell enthusiast. Our HOA president, Brandy, decided my next-door neighbors, Tamsin and Ethan, were bringing down property values by being happy. She'd had a thing for Ethan before he moved in. You could hear it in the way she said his name like a key you keep trying on the wrong lock. Brandy started with whispers. Saw Ethan's truck at the gym late, if you catch my drift. Then came the evidence. A lipstick-stained to-go cup tucked under his passenger seat. A screenshot of texts to a contact saved as spin class. Brandy printed them for the HOA meeting and slid them across the folding table like a poker hand. Tamsin's face went quiet. Ethan looked like he'd swallowed a screw. I don't want to interfere, Brandy sighed, but homeowners deserve transparency. My porch camera caught her at 4:11 a.m. that morning, barefoot, sneaking across the grass with a flashlight and a coffee cup. I know the time because my sprinklers kicked on at 4:10. The other thing about sprinklers? The controller logs activation and motion to save water. It pinged her twice. First when she tripped my hose, second when she yanked Ethan's truck handle to check if it was unlocked. The lipstick on the cup? The exact coral she's worn since 1997. How do I know? I have eyes. Also, she asked me to sign for a Sephora box last month. The label, Coral Mirage, Mu Year 27. I requested the floor. Brandy, I said, your cup. I mirrored my Ring cam feed to the community center's TV. There she was, in grainy Babylon Bee blue, planting the evidence and then slipping her phone into Ethan's wheel well like it was a love note. Find My can look very scandalous if you're the one making the dot show up. She lunged for the power strip. The treasurer beat her to it. Then Ethan, without a word, pulled a manila envelope from his backpack and set down 3 pages, screen grabs of Brandy's anonymous email headers. Her IT job had taught her to scrub metadata, apparently, but not that our HOA's Gmail forwards include originating IP. It matched her house down to the Cox router MAC address. Instant Karma showed up with a gavel. The vote to remove her as president was unanimous, including her husband's trembling hand. He stood, and in a voice that had never cut through a summer barbecue before, said, I'm filing for separation. Today. He looked at Tamsin. I should have warned you. She still lingered. Tamsin turned to Ethan and laughed, relieved and furious all at once. They left holding hands. Brandy sat alone with her Coral Mirage smile cracking around the edges, while the treasurer read bylaws into the microphone. I walked home, checked my sprinkler log again, and set it to 4:09 a.m. Just in case she feels like gardening in the dark. Story 7. I was a paperclip-level intern at an immigration firm, there to fetch coffee and alphabetize heartache. Our clients that day were a soft-spoken music teacher, Priya, and her husband Tom, there for their Stokes interview. Separate, detailed questioning to sniff out sham marriages. Someone had tipped USCIS that their relationship was transactional, including a photo of Tom hugging a woman at a street fair. The tipster signed it, concerned friend. But the return address belonged to Tom's ex, Hallie, who had once told him she'd burn the house down before watching him build a new one. We sat in the fluorescent waiting room where everyone remembers God. Priya squeezed her henna-worn hands. Tom kept tapping a rhythm on his knee that I later learned matched the chorus of the song he wrote for their vows. The adjudications officer came out stern, announced the separate rooms, and Hallie, God help me, walked in uninvited with a legal-size envelope like a game show hostess of doom. I have additional evidence, she informed the front desk, loud enough for the room to wince. The officer allowed it. The file's a hungry beast. Hallie's evidence was a lease proving Tom and Priya don't cohabitate. Different addresses, different utilities. The twist? While she grandstanded, a man in paint-splattered overalls got up from the biometrics line and knocked on our door. Officer, I'm the superintendent for that building. She offered me $200 to backdate that lease yesterday. I said no. She tried me last week too. He held up his phone with a text that included her name, number, and the typo, please. Security escorted Hallie to a separate room. She tried to play it as a misunderstanding until the officer asked why the independent tipster had emailed from her Etsy business address. Then the other shoe hit the tile. Tom produced the photo from the street fair, uncropped, showing Priya just out of frame holding the camera because the hugged woman was Tom's mom, newly in remission, crying into her son's shoulder. Priya's interview lasted 7 minutes. She rattled off the brand of Tom's toothpaste, the exact drawer where he hides his drumsticks, and what he calls the rogue blueberry that always rolls under the fridge, the escapee. Tom listed the spices in her chai tin in order of smell. The officer tried not to smile and failed. Hallie left without her envelope. The officer kept it for the fraud report. Instant karma. Her own pending travel waiver flagged for document irregularities. Priya and Tom weren't approved on the spot. No miracles in bureaucracy. But the notice arrived 2 weeks later with a sticky note from the officer. The escapee is free. Hallie's number? Blocked by USCIS. The house didn't burn. The match went out in the rain. Story 8. I'm a gate agent. People lie to me every day. About baggage weight, about liquids, about whether their emotional support iguana is chill. A woman named Corrine approached my desk at gate 18 with the kind of smile that comes with expensive veneers and righteous fury. She whispered, "My ex is boarding with his new girlfriend. He's trafficking drugs in her carry-on. I thought you should know. We take that seriously." TSA took the bag, peach-colored, monogrammed, and the line froze like a trapped centipede. The girlfriend, Zoya, looked like she was trying not to pass out. The ex, Luca, had that helpless hands-out thing some men get when they want to look innocent and end up looking like inflatable car lot dancers. Here's the thing about airports. They're cameras stitched together with carpet. We ran the tape because we always do. There was Corinne at the coffee shop standing too close in line, then lingering by a charging station where Zoya had set her bag for 30 seconds to retie a shoe. A hand like a heron slid something into the front pocket and patted it like a pillow. TSA opened that pocket now and found a vape cartridge and a rolled baggie she probably thought looked very TV illegal. But the real instant karma came from another angle. Our lost and found clerk had just logged an AirTag chirping in a tray. Someone forgot to put it back after showing a toddler how it worked. It was pinging like a heart monitor from Corinne's tote. And because Apple designs for relationships, not crime, it had a label. Corinne's secret. The screen blinked. This AirTag is moving with you. She had planted one in Zoya's bag too. It chirped when TSA lifted the lining. That's a stalking felony where I work? While airport police pulled her aside, Zoya steadied herself on the counter and asked me, voice quiet and fierce, "Am I safe to fly?" I looked at Luca. "You two on the same reservation?" He nodded. "I can't comp love." But when the officer came back with a thumbs up and Corinne in handcuffs, I did the only thing I could. Move them to 1A and 1C on the overbooked flight because the medallion seated there had volunteered to take the next. Luca tried to refuse. Zoya squeezed his hand and mouthed, "Later, argue later." As they boarded, Corinne's mother, who had been waiting at the window with a scarf over her hair, approached my desk with shaking hands. She told me she was making a grand gesture, she whispered. She did. Zoya sent a postcard 3 months later of a beach with birds that looked like commas. We got where we were going, she wrote. Thanks for the pause. Story 9. I groom dogs and keep secrets. It's a small town. Our version of therapy is the chatter over clippers. I watched a relationship die in my drying cages and the instant karma came with glitter. Elsie and Rowan split last fall. They shared a husky named Coda, who howled like an ambulance and loved both of them with audited sincerity. They'd agreed, 1 week on, 1 week off, until Elsie started claiming Coda looked traumatized after Rowan's weeks. She posted photos of a small scab near Coda's ear with captions like, "Neglect isn't always visible." Her new boyfriend, a guy who alphabetizes protein powders, paraded the posts through town. The gathering storm was the Winter Lights Parade, where the Chamber of Commerce added a best-dressed pet category. Elsie wanted the sympathy trophy. She brought Coda in the morning of with a glitter antler headband and instructions that read like a subpoena. She turned her back to take a call, and her boyfriend leaned over Coda, accidentally scraping a fingernail against the scab to make it look fresh. We have cameras, not for drama, for liability, and one hangs over Station 3 because a dachshund once tried to sue me. Not literally, but those eyes. I printed stills, time-stamped, because something in my bones knew this would matter by sundown. Sure enough, at the parade, Elsie grabbed the mic before the MC could announce winners. "I can't stand by while a dog is abused," she cried, gesturing to Coda's ear like a prosecutor discovering an ear on the stand. People gasped. Rowan, who'd been standing in the back eating a funnel cake, looked like she'd been punched with sugar. I climbed onto the float, pressed the mic button, and asked the DJ to switch the feed to sponsor media. The screen behind the stage, meant for snowflake animations, flickered to Station 3. There was the boyfriend, caught in 4K dog salon cinema, digging at Coda's ear, then smearing glitter gel over it like stage blood. The crowd went from gasp to growl. The judge announced no winners would be named until custody matters were clear. The police didn't arrest anyone. They did something better. The town magistrate, who doubles as Santa come December, offered an emergency hearing the next day. I brought the raw footage and my logbook. Coda sat with a bow tie and impeccable manners. The order gave Coda to Rowan permanently. The twist? The judge tacked on 50 hours of community service for the boyfriend. Not for the ear, for disorderly conduct at a permitted event. His assignment, scoop dog poop along the parade route for the spring 5K. I offered him a glittered scoop. Coda still howls past my shop some mornings, but now it sounds like relief. And when Elsie sees my camera, she crosses the street like the sidewalk might scrape back. Story 10. I shoot wedding videos. My job is to make the verite look intentional, and the intentional look like it just happened. At a vineyard rehearsal, the maid of honor, Sierra, pulled me aside. "If anything, dramatic happens tomorrow," she said. "Keep rolling. That's never a good sign." The dramatic arrived early. During the rehearsal dinner, the projector flickered and a video started. Grainy footage of the groom, Miles, kissing someone on a couch that wasn't the bride, Jun. Sierra gasped like she'd never seen it. Jun's father stood so fast his chair tried to follow. The room rippled with family history. I've seen deepfakes. This one was decent. The eyes matched. The jawline did the right shadows. But there was a hitching artifact in the corner where the compression stuttered. Also, the audio of Miles whispering was too clean for a living room. I've mixed enough wind and vineyard to know. I excused myself, found the source laptop snuggled behind the projector, and looked at the desktop. There it was. Final to move. Metadata is a snitch with a perfect memory. Export time, 4:37 p.m. Exported from an account named Sierra. AirDrop history showed a transfer from Sierra's phone 10 minutes later. I could have confronted her quietly. Instead, I mirrored my screen with the file info. The room watched the file tree like it was a courtroom exhibit. "Sierra?" June asked. Sierra wilted, then straightened like a plant refusing weather. "He's wrong for you," she said. "I'd rather you be mad at me now than divorced in a year." Miles didn't protest. He looked at Jun. Jun looked at me. "Can you roll audio?" she asked. I already had. She took the mic. "We almost eloped last month," she said. "We didn't because we wanted our families there. We forgot to consider the family we chose." She walked to the window with Miles. They gave each other 30 seconds of quiet where their faces did arithmetic. Then they turned back, hands laced. "We're still getting married," June said. "But not here." She nodded at me. "Come on." We went outside into the vineyard twilight. I filmed them under a trellis while the caterer, bless chaotic good, grabbed 2 plates and a bottle. The officiant, who had just finished a speech about the history of toasts, followed with a travel-sized book of vows. Their parents came out slowly, like animals stepping past a trap. Sierra didn't. The twist wasn't that they forgave her. They didn't. It was that when we finished, Miles's phone lit with a notification from the home camera. The original cheating couch footage? He'd forgotten the camera was set to archive. He hit play. It showed the same couch last week with Sierra rehearsing angles. Alone. Checking the light with her own face swapped in as the other person. She'd practiced framing betrayal. I cut their film with that clip at the beginning. The rehearsal for a lie, then the truth under vines. They mailed a thumb drive to Sierra with no note. I heard she watched it once and enrolled in a different city's grad program. As for the couple, they sent me a one-line testimonial. Thanks for catching the wrong movie. Story 11. I'm the office manager at our temple. Keeper of keys, calendars, and the candy bowl kids pretend not to see. We're a tight congregation. Engagements ripple like shofars. When Naomi and Eli announced their date, the Ant Brigade high-fived the sisterhood's Kugel committee. Enter Devora, Naomi's family friend, who wore grief like jewelry after her own divorce. She started leaving little crumbs. Eli seems distant in study group. He's always on his phone. Then came the letter. It arrived on embossed stationery addressed to the rabbi. An anonymous warning that Eli had been meeting a woman from the Hebrew class after hours. It named times, a car color, even a perfume. Jasmine, too strong for a modest girl. The rabbi, bless him, didn't chase it. He asked me to add an extra set of eyes at closing. 2 nights later, I'm rounding the classrooms when I hear Devora telling Naomi in the lobby that denial isn't fate. My stomach sank. I checked the security log, door codes show who enters when, and saw Eli's code pinged at 7:04 p.m. That was true, because I'd let him in to test the new live stream for the youth choir. The only scent in the building was dust and old prayer books. I took the letter to Mrs. Feld, our calligraphy volunteer. She's 90 and can spot a forged Yud from across a sanctuary. She tilted her head. Honey, whoever wrote this dots their eyes like an impatient squirrel. She flipped through our RSVP envelopes. There, an RSVP addressed to Devora B. Same impatient dots, same odd slant on the gimel. She added, and Jasmine is her perfume. I sit behind her. I brought the findings to the rabbi. He didn't scold Devora. He invited her to read the Haftarah the next morning. Public, steady, slow. When she stood at the bima, the rabbi gently prefaced with a reminder that lashon hara, gossip, is a sin not fixed by being right, only by being kind. Devora's hands shook so hard the pointer clinked. She misread 3 lines, swallowed twice, and fled. Instant karma came quietly. Naomi's mother had planned to hire Devora to coordinate the ketubah signing to keep her involved. Instead, Naomi asked Mrs. Feld to design the ketubah and dedicate it to people who tell the truth with beautiful hands. During the signing, Eli pulled out a bottle of jasmine oil for Naomi. From the garden where we filmed the choir, he said, smiling. Devora sat in the back and wept. After the ceremony, she came up to me and whispered, I wanted to save her from a loneliness that wasn't mine to give. I pointed to the chuppah. She's already saved. Story 12. I'm a grad student in computational linguistics dating another grad student in medieval literature. A dangerous combo if you like sleep. My advisor, Dr. Peck, resented that I wasn't living in the lab. He liked disciples, not partners. When my boyfriend, Owen, got a tiny grant and a bigger profile, he found a lost marginalia joke in a 14th century sermon. Peck started mentoring him, with me as the cautionary tale. Distractions kill careers, he told him, eyes on me. Then the hammer. An email to the department alleging that Owen plagiarized his marginalia analysis from a forthcoming chapter, Peck's chapter. Attached, a PDF with almost identical phrasing to Owen's preprint, dated months earlier, bearing Peck's name. Peck CC'd the dean and ethics chair. Regrettable but necessary, he wrote. I stopped breathing while Owen laughed like a man on a gallows. He borrowed my preprint to review it in March, he said. I thought he'd review it. We requested an inquiry. Peck arrived to the meeting with a leather folder and a fatherly sigh. Love makes us sloppy, he said, watching me. The chair cleared her throat and asked me to present any technical evidence. I started with Git version history and Eshe checksums, our digital breadcrumbs. Owen's preprint existed on a public repository since January with immutable hashes. I pulled up the commit log projected on the wall. Each timestamp marched down the screen like a drumline. But the twist came from a softer place. Owen's analysis hinged on a pun in Middle English that he'd discovered because of me. We'd been bickering about homophones over late pizza, and he joked in the margins of his notes, Ask L. about switch switch joke, with my nickname in the line. The scanned notebook with that joke, dated December, sat on the table. We also had his screen recording from the day he exported the PDF. My cluttered desktop cameoed with my terrible plant's name, Kevin. Peck tried to pivot. Language is iterative. Ideas circulate. The chair held up a hand. Dr. Peck, your F-March PDF's metadata shows it was created 3 weeks ago on your home iMac. She'd requested the raw file. IT had already peaked. Also, you replaced the author name field but forgot the internal tag. She clicked File Properties. Author, Owen.mck. Instant karma. Peck's sabbatical was repurposed into unpaid leave. His chapter was pulled. The dean made a careful public statement about mentorship boundaries and preprint ethics. Owen's grant got a $0 extension, time, not money, which is the closest academia gets to a hug. Outside, under the hideous campus sculpture, Owen proposed with a twist-tied ring he made from a Cat 6 cable. I said yes while laughing and crying because we are ridiculous. A week later, a first year left a sticky note on my office door. Love makes us rigorous. I taped it to Kevin. Story 13. I volunteer with a prison reentry nonprofit. We prep folks for parole boards, polish resumes, translate the bureaucraties of hope. One of my mentees, Dion, had a girlfriend on the outside, Lark, who stood by him through 2 winters and a pandemic. She sent photos of her plants, recipes, and shoes she wanted to dance in when he came home. Enter a different ex, Shy, who discovered Dion's parole hearing date on Facebook and decided to protect Lark from a liar. She called the prison to report that Lark was sneaking contraband in through coded crochet. She posted a thread with grainy screenshots of Lark's Etsy shop and circled granny square patterns like FBI diagrams. The prison froze Dion's visits pending review. Lark got a letter barring her from the facility. Shy threw a watch party on live. Here's the thing about prisons. They record calls. Not all are monitored, but the ones scheduled under legal coordination are. Shy didn't know our nonprofit's number routes through that category. She called me 3 times to gloat and, in her bragging, confessed. If he can't see her, she'll leave on her own, she said. I'm doing her a favor. At Dion's parole hearing, the board had a packet with the crochet conspiracy, a stack of Lark's letters, sweet, boring, hopeful, and my affidavit. I asked to play a clip. Shy's voice filled the sterile room. I told the COs the yarn hides pills. They believed me. They always believe me. Silence has a weight. This one felt like shackles opening. The board chair asked Dion what he'd do if released. He didn't talk about revenge or even vindication. He said, make dinner for a woman who hasn't eaten a meal she didn't cook in a year. The chair nodded. Who is the woman? Lark, he said, like a prayer with feathers. Parole granted. Instant karma. The facility issued Shy a trespass order for filing false reports, and the county issued a harassment warning. But the real punch came later. When Dion walked out, Lark wasn't there. Not because she was scared, because she was in the hospital after a car clipped her bicycle the night before. We drove him straight there. He sat on the bed, took her crocheted blanket in his hands, and said, no more coded love. Just the loud kind. Shy posted a passive-aggressive, glad he's safe, that got 3 likes. Dion and Lark posted a photo of burnt lasagna with the caption, practice. The parole officer commented a laughing emoji. In this town, that counts as a blessing. Story 14. I'm a nurse in an assisted living facility. My patients come with decades of plot. Mr. Albrecht, quiet, chess player, former plumber, had 2 adult children, Petra, meticulous and sharp, and Jonah, charming in a borrow your ladder and your future way. Petra's wife, Min, handled most logistics. Jonah resented Min for stealing his dad's attention with spreadsheets. When Mr. Albrecht's cognition dipped, a new power of attorney draft surfaced naming Jonah sole agent to reduce confusion. The signature looked right, the notary stamp looked official, and Jonah insisted Petra had agreed in spirit. At family night, Jonah took the mic to announce that Min was controlling access and hinted at financial irregularities. He'd printed bank logs showing transfers from dad's account to a charity, then to Min's personal checking. The room went biblical. I've changed more batteries and hearing aids than I've had hot dinners. Mr. Albrecht had recently upgraded to a fancy model with a smartphone app that records adjustments as audio clips. Tiny snapshots of the room whenever Min tweaked settings so he could hear the TV or the birds. The day the POA was signed, Min had fiddled with the app during a storm that sent the TV to static. The device captured a clear conversation. Jonah coaching their father through a signature script. Now the A like a roof, remember? And the notary, Jonah's poker buddy, noting, "We can do the stamp later. I forgot it in the car. I brought it to the facility director who brought it to Adult Protective Services." Petra stayed terrifyingly calm. She asked the bank for trace data on those charity transfers. They were real, to a registered foundation. Its name? The Albrecht Tool Library, a community shed Petra had set up months earlier where people could borrow drills and saws. The transfer to Min? Reimbursement for bolts. Line item, 1432. Jonah had cropped the screenshot. Instant karma rolled in on official paper. The court invalidated the POA, suspended the notary's commission, and appointed Petra and Min as co-guardians. Jonah got barred from managing Dad's finances, and the facility placed him on a visitor watch list after he tried to unplug the hearing aid charging dock. He went from charming son to a man nobody lent ladders to. On Mr. Albrecht's next good day, we took him to the tool library. He ran his fingers over the handles like rosary beads. "You always wanted to fix the neighborhood," he told Petra. Then he looked at Min. "And you fixed me." Jonah stood outside, hands in pockets, reading a sign that said, "Return tools clean." Some instructions arrived too late. Story 15. I mod a mid-size gaming Discord. I'm the boring one who updates the rules and mutes mic breathers. Two members, Imani and Reed, met in our server, fell in love over 2 a.m. raids, and moved in together. Most of us shipped it. One person didn't. Our other mod, Crown, who liked being the king of lonely hearts. He started nudging Reed in DMs. "She flirts in voice chat when you're asleep. Check her whispers with Jasper." Screenshots followed. Cropped messages with Imani saying, "Don't tell Reed." Reed confronted Imani on main. She opened logs, hers were clean, then burst into tears and left the call. Crown posted a long, "I hate to be right," and banned Jasper for romance spam. My gut said it stank. I pulled audit logs. Crown had elevated his perm level to read deleted messages, not allowed, then used a bot to send test DMs from a throwaway and delete them, leaving behind a system string that looked like Imani's ID. It's a cheap trick if you know how bot caches work. We scheduled a town hall on stage. I invited a quiet account named Kettle, who DM'd me PLS check merch orders. He'd run our fan shirt drop last month. One order was to Crown's real name and address. The shipping label included a phone number that matched the recovery for 2 throwaway accounts, including the one used to fake Jasper's flirt logs. Crown's OPSEC died to a t-shirt. I shared my screen. Audit logs, bot cache, order receipts. Crown went from crown to clown in 12 frames. He tried. It was a test to see if she was loyal. The server booed. Reed DM'd me privately. "Should I kick him?" I said. "Let the server vote." 94% ban. The 6% were bots he forgot to unadd. Instant karma didn't end with exile. A week later, Twitch rolled out a new feature that credited community mods on channel pages. Our streamer clicked to add moderators. Crown's handle appeared with a bright red "previously banned for harassment" tag. New policy linking Discord moderation histories if accounts are connected. He lost his mod gigs in 3 other servers overnight. Reed posted an apology thread to Imani with screenshots of Crown's manipulation and one line that hit like a crit. I believed the man with the crown instead of the woman who built the castle. Imani came back on voice shaking. "I need a break from public," she said. The guild switched to private for a month at her request. When she returned, we ran a silly one-shot D&D night. The final loot drop was a cosmetic, a digital crown. She rolled highest, then traded it to Reed. "You wear it when I'm tired," she said. Crown alt account typed LOL cringe and got insta-silenced. Some empires fall to revolutions, others to shipping labels. Story 16. I'm a real estate agent in a sleepy coastal town where ocean view means a sliver of blue between 2 cedar trees. My clients, Lane and Mira, were finally under contract after losing 3 bidding wars. Their next-door neighbor to be, Anton, showed up to the open house with craft beer breath and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "We keep the street quiet," he said, staring at their clasped hands like it offended the HOA gods. Later, I heard why he cared. He'd dated Mira years ago for a month and still told bartenders it was serious. A week before closing, the building department received an anonymous tip alleging Lane and Mira's house had major unpermitted structural work, specifically a deck enlargement and a concealed wet bar. The city slapped the file with a red tag. The seller panicked. My couple panicked harder. I pulled the listing media packet and combed through every photo, every drone angle, every timestamp. The deck was original. The wet bar was a rolling cart with a sink plug. But tips equal inspections. The inspector met us on site with a clipboard and a tired face. While he measured joists, I rewatched our drone clip for the 10th time and froze on a frame I'd never noticed. A neighboring garage roof with a brand new skylight and a plastic vent haphazardly poking through shingles. The metadata stamped the video 3 months back, before the tip. I asked the inspector, out of curiosity, is a garage apartment rentable without egress windows and signed permits? He followed my finger across the property line. Anton had been renting out an artist loft over his garage for cash, unpermitted, and his skylight cut through a truss like it was chala. The inspector's eyebrows did a full yoga pose. He wrapped our visit with, Deck's original, wet bars a cart, and then walked next door. 10 minutes later, an orange stop work order glowed against Anton's clapboard like a sunset. A fine followed. So did a very loud conversation from his porch that ended with a woman saying, "You told me it was legal." Lane and Mira closed on time. At the key handoff, Anton tried to intercept them with a stack of printed bylaws and a threat to watch everything. Mira looked at him with the softness you save for stubborn dogs and said, "We already saw enough." We toasted with seltzer on the perfectly legal deck while next door. The artist loft went dark. The first thing the couple bought for their new home was a second-hand bar cart. They parked it in the living room and named it Anonymous Tip. Story 17. I'm the elementary school music teacher and, against all odds, the de facto accountant of the spring talent show. We fund instruments with bake sales and glittery chaos. This year's PTA treasurer, Celine, was furious that her ex, Marco, had remarried. She made sure everyone knew his new wife, Danny, wasn't PTA material. Then the cash started going missing from the ticket pre-sales. Small amounts at first. Then a fat envelope labeled "Stage Lights" vanished. Celine clucked her tongue and announced, very publicly, that Danny, who ran ticket tables, had been the last to close the lockbox. "I hate to suspect a volunteer," she said, eyes wet. Rumors stuck like gum. Danny stopped showing up at set construction, and Marco arrived with a face carrying 10 years of fatigue. Numbers don't usually lie, they wobble. Our receipt book, though, told a story in ink, literally. The serial numbers were off, skipping 147, 152, like pages had been swapped out. I held one under the lamp. The ink looked watery. When my soprano section got distracted, I scrolled TikTok to avoid screaming and landed on a clip from Celine's daughter, bragging about her mom's spy pen that writes disappearing ink for surprise notes. The brand matched the blue sheen on our receipts. At dress rehearsal, the principal planned to address the missing money and reassure our community. Before she could, the lights flickered. Our ancient breaker. The tech dad, a saint with a toolbox, asked me to stall. I grabbed the mic and, with a choir teacher's smile, invited a quick, fun demonstration. I held a questionable receipt over the warm Fresnel lamp. As the heat rose, the invisible ink bloomed into the word void and a curly heart signature. Every parent leaned forward at once. The tech dad, now a folk hero, rolled a card on stage with the lockbox. He'd found a false bottom that rattled when he bumped it. Inside sat the missing envelopes in Celine's spy pen, still in its packaging with an Amazon gift receipt to herself. She tried to sob about stress. The principal, voice flat, said, "This is theft and slander." PTA bylaws slammed down. Police weren't called. The school district's lawyer was. Celine resigned mid-crescendo. Instant karma. The sponsor bank that had promised to match our talent show profits doubled their match to rebuild trust. Danny returned the next day with a pan of conchas and a spreadsheet that balanced our year to the penny. Marco handed me a check with a shaky signature and said, "For the lights." I told him they were already paid. He cried anyway. At the show, a third grader sang "Rainbow Connection," while Celine watched from the hallway. Some notes you can't auto-tune. The story 18. I'm the electrician for our city's summer food truck festival. The guy in a neon vest who keeps people from electrocuting mozzarella sticks. On day 2, I noticed a guy in a faded band tee lurking near the breaker that powered Fire in Time. A truck run by a couple, Nora and Bass. Their chimichurri can heal generational trauma. The lurker, Trent, used to date Nora. Vendors gossip in half-volts. Apparently, he'd started a rival slider stand across the river and had been sending Nora friendly warnings about how hard relationships can be when one partner can't keep up. Halfway through the lunch rush, Fire and Time lost power. Their fridge alarms chirp. If temps spike too long, health rules force you to toss product. Nora's face did quick mental math you only do when money is time and time is beef. I sprinted to the distro and found the sub-panel tripped by a foreign plug jammed into a maintenance outlet. Daisy chained into a space heater tucked under a tent. That heater, belonged to Trent, who had dragged a long cord behind sponsor banners to leech off their line. His tent lights were twinkling like fairy spite while Nora's fridge warmed. We document everything. If a vendor claims damages, my job is receipts. I pulled the footage from our poll cam. Trent plugging in, glancing at Fire and Time, texting. I reset the breaker and rerouted Fire and Time to a clean leg. Then, because spite plus safety equals poetry, I walked a health inspector over to Trent's tent. She lifted the heater and frowned. It was a jury-rigged sous vide stuck into a hotel pan, plugged through 2 power strips and a dollar store adapter. The inspector's eyebrows climbed past her visor. Instant karma arrived as a laminated placard. Cease operation. Unsafe electrical. Trent tried to argue that I'd set him up. The cam replayed on the inspector's tablet. He pivoted. Nora told you to do this. Bass, who rarely raises his voice, raised it. We were busy feeding people. A teenage volunteer in a yellow vest piped up, and I told you not to plug anything in. He'd logged Trent's name on the warning sheet. The festival director let Trent pack up under supervision. We comped Fire and Time's health loss and announced a flash giveaway. The first 100 sliders free courtesy of a safety grant. The line turned into a parade. Nora handed me a sandwich with extra chimichurri. For saving our marriage therapy fund, she joked, eyes wet. Across the lawn, Trent loaded his cooler into his truck and stalled twice. When he finally pulled out, his bumper sticker, "Work hard, don't whine," peeled off and stuck to the pavement. People stepped over it, not on it. Even the crowd had standards.